Hello and welcome to part one of my Unreal Engine tutorial slash development log, where I am going to basically go through all of the steps of me making a game in Unreal Engine, talking about all of the kind of things that I have to add in along the way for the game. In this first episode, we're going to be expanding our camera options. Now, what does that mean? Well, right now, we can move and jump for sure. As for camera, all we have available to us is rotating. Now, for the most part, this is pretty fine and it doesn't really change a whole lot, but me personally, I don't really like where the camera sits in the game. And so I want to move it. But I figured if I'm going to be moving the camera because I don't like where it is, what if somebody who plays this game also doesn't like where the camera is? So I've come up with the idea to basically allow the camera position to be adjusted in the controls so that they can be moved in-game. We're going to do this in two phases. The first one we're going to add is zooming in and out. This isn't super duper complicated, so we'll jump right in. First thing we want to do, in the content browser, we want to go to Input Actions, and we want to right-click and create a new input action. I'm going to call it IA Zoom In. Now, you can call it whatever you want, but I'm just going to go with form factor names just for ease of use, and I'll call this one we're going to call this one Zoom Out. Cool. So now that this is done, we want to go out one folder here. We want to go to the IMC default. And in mappings, we want to add those new options. So you press this plus sign, come down here, it'll open a new blank one, and you'll attach these to it. Cool. This arrow here on the left, we want to pop out. And this is where we're going to assign the keyboard option that does it. I'm going to map this to mouse wheel up to zoom in, and mouse wheel down to zoom out. Cool. Go ahead and save that. So that's all we have to do in terms of new files. Now we're going to need to go into our down here, third person, blueprints, and we're going to mess with the third person player controller. Never mind. No, we're not. I was wrong. Don't listen to me. Third person player, or the third person character. There we go. That's the correct one. Oh boy. You know what? No, it's fine. I was going to cheat that for a second and get a better take, but we're not going to do that. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move the jump input out of the way, and I'm going to come here. This is our orbiting camera box. So basically, these are kind of like comments you can make. These like lighter gray boxes with text on them. They are comments to help organization. They don't actually do anything, but you can. We're going to make this one bigger, and it's going to have to be pretty big. We're going to do some complicated stuff today. Oh, there we go. All right. So now that we have that stuff set up, we're going to start. When we adjust the camera in a third-person camera perspective, it's important to note how exactly the camera follows the player. How it works, if we come over here on the left, we have our components. We have something called the camera boom. If we double click on it, you can see our 3D modeling view. I'm doing it badly. Okay, so essentially you imagine this is our game. Here is the camera itself. This is the actual object that we see through. Here's the player character. In the middle here is this beam. This is the camera boom. Think of it like a selfie stick, essentially. It's sticking out, and wherever it articulates, it drags the camera with it. There are a couple cool features with this, which is known as the spring camera, which is basically if you're up against a wall, it'll zoom in. If you're really far, and as if you're, out in the air, it'll zoom out as far as it can go. So this is the actual thing we're going to be influencing. We don't want to mess with the camera because the camera's rotation is going to be changed by our actual mouse movement. We've already done rotating stuff with the camera. We can't do anything else to the camera. We have to change the arm. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to go here. We can drag this out. And this basically, we can take anything from the boom we want. And the first thing we're going to take is the target arm length. Target arm length is, I didn't do this right. Drag it out and then it'll show up. Target arm length is, as Anna said, if you're close to a wall, it'll zoom in. Target arm length is just where it wants to be whenever it is unimpeded by something. This is going to be a number. And as you can probably guess, if we want to zoom in, we want the number to be smaller. If we want to zoom out, we want the number to be bigger. So we're going to need an addition blueprint. And we're going to need a subtraction blueprint. We'll drag this value in to both of these. And down here we can set the value we want to do. I'm going to go with 40. I think that's the speed at which I like how it works. You can obviously change this as you want. And then what we're going to do, so right now, obviously, this means you could go infinitely. And I personally don't want that. So what we're going to do then is add a clamp. It's important that we note this needs to be a clamp on a float. I'm going to create one here, put that value in, and we'll set the minimum to 100 and the max to 1000. I'm going to go ahead and copy that over here for the other one. Our next step, now that we have our value, we're going to need another camera boom so we can work with it. We're going to assign this value now. So come over to camera boom. We're going to want to do set target arm length. And we will drag in return value so that sets camera boom's target arm length to the value we set in. Now, this isn't actually going to do anything yet because it hasn't been triggered, which is this line here. As you see, we need to assign an enhanced movement to it, which is what we created when we did zoom in or zoom out. So this one zoom out, plus make sure we line those up correctly, otherwise we're going to be backwards. And then we'll just do the exact same thing again. We can take this set, copy it. Ooh, that was cut. Sorry about that. And we can use the same camera variable for this, and then we want to create our zoom in and assign that as our trigger. Cool. Now we compile, we save, and bring ourselves back to the game. Once we click in, we can now zoom out and zoom in with our scroll wheel. Awesome. But I still don't really like it. I think it's missing something. Let's see if I can get a good example. We zoom in. This is kind of lame. It's kind of hard to see what's going on here. We've zoomed in, so presumably we're trying to get a better look at something, but our guy is in the way. We can't really look at anything unless we're trying to look at the guy. So let's move the camera position up and down. This will let us get a better view of things. So we're going to create some new options here. I'm going to call them, oh, it's frozen. There we go. I'm going to call these new options pan up I'll rename that. I don't want up to look like that. Pan up and pan down. Cool. We're going to do the same thing we did last time, where we come over here to, not here, to input IMC default, and we're going to assign these new mappings. Now, what I'm about to do here might seem kind of weird, but trust me, it'll all make sense in the end. So we're going to go here, we're going to do pan up and pan down, and we're going to assign these to the mouse wheel up and down, just like we did with the zoom. Okay, so that, at first, that might look a little weird, but I promise it'll all make sense in a minute. We were fine where we were. Fingerprints, third-person character. So now we need to add all of the code for moving the camera. This is where things are gonna get weird. So just like before, we're going to start with camera boom. Then we're going to want to, from here, get relative transform. Transform is its position. Relative transform means its position compared to the player. This essentially just ensures that we're always grounded by the player in some way. So that's why we want relative transform as opposed to just world transform. But this is a very complicated number because transform includes position, it has rotation, and it has scale. And we only really care about up and down position. So we don't have to really think about any of this at all. So what we want to do first then is break transform. Drag this into there. So that has broken the number down into these three values: location, rotation, and scale. But we still only want one of those values. So we're going to need to break vector. And we can send in location. Cool. Now we have our options here that we're going to work with for moving the camera position. Now here's something very important. I would only bring you here if it was incredibly important that we did it. This red line is our arm. And as we see here, this is a visual representation of transform. This is how we, in the model viewer, manipulate transform. We can drag it forward. We can drag it left and right. And we can drag it up and down. Up and down is the one we want to mess with. And we can see if we look over here on the right side of the screen, we see transform. The location blue line is what is changing, going up and down. So we'll reset that back down to 0. And we see that this is the Z axis. So that means we want to mess with Z. And obviously we're going to be adding and subtracting to it. So let's grab add. Grab add. And then grab subtract. And plop Z into those. I think 20 is probably a good number for our speed here. Not 200, 20. All right. And we're going to move this minus out of the way for now because there's going to be a lot more stuff to go. Okay. And then just like before, we want to clamp this. So we assign a max value to it. put our value in and set our mins. Personally, I think -50, 115 is the range I want to use. Of course, obviously, if you don't like those, you can come in and change it. I'm going to do the same thing over here. -50, +115. Cool. So then, what do we have here? We have 20 more than whatever our Z position was. We don't have any other information to plug back into our transform. So we're going to need to make a vector. We'll plug in our return value as Z, and we'll grab the original Y and the original X, because remember, we aren't changing those, so we want them to keep their value. And now we have the vector, and we'll want to make transform. We can grab this. We want to grab the original rotation and the original scale, assign our new return value as the location, and finally, we can grab our camera boom, come here, set relative transform, and plug in our new value. And we'll want our pan up input for the trigger. Cool. And we want to duplicate that whole process over here for our return. That is our Z. That's our Y. And our X. We grab our rotation and our scale. And then we'll create our pan down input. Throw it in there as the trigger. Cool. Compile it and save it. Head back to our editor. And now we zoom in and pan up and down. Now you might notice that this is really wacky, and it just looks bad. This is not at all how we want this motion to work. But I really, really want the scroll wheel to do both. So what if we set it up so that you did one at a time? You made it zoom in, zoom out, or you could then toggle it to be pan up and pan down. Well, there is in fact a way to do that. Over here in actions, we're going to create one more action. I'm going to call this one flip key effects. Over here, go back to our IMC default. We have one more mapping we can add, which is our flip key effects. And I'm going to go ahead and map that to left control. All right. This doesn't do anything yet. Essentially, all it has now is whenever we press left control, nothing happens because we didn't assign anything to this. But before we go any further, there is one important thing we need to grab. In our actions, we need to come here to flip key effects. This is going to be a single one-axis float. Cool. And then I lost it. There it is. Back here, we now need to do what is called a chorded action. this essentially means that in order to do something, you have to also do the other thing. So we come here, pan down on triggers. We press this plus button here, add element, chorded action. We can then drop that down and we can select the chorded action. I'm going to select flip key effects. So this means that how it's going to work right now is that if you press this button, pan up now becomes the default for this. And we'll do the same thing for pan down. We'll give it a chorded action mapped to flip key effects. Now, we're not done yet, though, because there's one last thing about Unreal Engine I haven't told you. This mappings screen is actually in sequential order. At the start of the program, when you press run, or technically when you compile your code, it reads these in order. So jump is here. Anything below it that uses the spacebar won't work because jump is there first. If they both act at the same time, there's no issue, right? Because before we could zoom in and pan down, there was no problem because they both just always happened. But now that we have this toggle on it, they're overriding each other. So we want to make sure our order is perfect. We want to put the ones that are being toggled first. Cool. So now basically how the program reads it is if input is pan up and flip keys is on, you pan up. Else, you just do this. If we had it the other way, we would always zoom in and we would get here in a weird funky state where we didn't actually get what we wanted. So now, if I scroll, we're zooming in and out. I can move my cursor around. And if I hold down Control, we're panning and we're not zooming. There we go. We have expanded our options with the camera. Nice. Well, that's everything I was going to talk about here. I suppose I'll end this off by saying a lot of these same ideas, the panning the camera and also chorded actions. If you're thinking about it, you probably can guess how they interact with each other. Chorded actions are going to be very useful for button combos. We'll play around more with those later. We're probably done moving the camera for quite a while, I would say, but some of that stuff transfers over. Obviously, the idea of adding new scripts, this is a new thing we added here. Mappings, these are all pretty important stuff that'll have a big role to play in the future. So, cool. Well, thanks for watching this, and next episode, I haven't decided what I'm doing. We'll find out when we get there. See you all next time. Bye.